Hey, thank you for joining me. This video is kind of a weird one for me. Um, right here in front of us, we've got the original Youngblood miniseries. Longtime viewers of my channel know that I have gone through every issue of anything Rob Liefeld that I own so far, and there's still more to come. But we all know Youngblood. We all know the story of Rob Liefeld, his rise to prominence on New Mutants. He goes on to make X-Force to crazy, exciting heights of success and popularity. Goes off with all those other guys and forms Image Comics. And Youngblood #1 is the first issue of Image Comics ever published. And it was I think Liefeld said it originally in an interview, it was going to be a 3-issue series. Then it was a 4-issue series, and that's where it ended. But then, as I've talked about on these books when I reviewed them individually, the story didn't even wrap up in issue 4. They had issue 5 of Youngblood printed up as a backup on Brigade #4. And that's where the story was wrapped up, and it wasn't even drawn by Rob Liefeld. They had Chap Yap, who I don't know for a fact, but I want to say it was his first published comics work, and if it's not, it's got to be amongst the absolute first things he's ever done. Because compared to how good Chap Yap became, it is awful, just awful. And so, I got issues with creators that, like, they start a series and they don't even end it and let someone else finish it up. It just reeks of I don't care. And in the case of this, it seems extremely obvious that Rob Liefeld has no idea how to construct a story from scratch. It's one thing to take over New Mutants, and it's an established lore, established characters with extensive history and characterizations and motivations, and then you take them, you grab that ball and you run with it. And that's much easier to take established characters and then you do your thing to them and take them into a fun direction, and then that's doable. But when you have to craft a brand new story with brand new characters from scratch and make it cohesive and have it make sense, Rob had no idea what he was doing. And my argument for that is just fucking read these books. Rob, I will give credit that he has ideas, and I think most of them, especially in this era, there's interest there. There's something interesting. There's something possible. But writing a cohesive narrative just does not exist in this dojo with Rob Liefeld. Maybe there's an element of didn't have time to craft something. So you kind of had to, like, okay, I'm wrapping up X-Force. I'm going to go off and try to do both. Didn't know Marvel was going to fire him, that Marvel fires him, so he's got to throw everything into this. So every scene in these books just feels like an idea that he had, and they're kind of loosely sort of connected. And then again, he ends issue 4 of the miniseries on a huge cliffhanger and had someone else draw the end of it. So I will say that obviously it is not easy to craft a story from scratch. I am an aspiring creator myself. I've been working on my own stuff for a long time. I've created comics, and it's hard. It's hard to create a story from scratch. It's hard to do an issue 1 where you got to introduce characters, motivations, the threats, and all the setup, and have it pay off, and then also give yourself a definitive ending where the story is going to be done at, and make sure you cram everything you want into that story in the space you've allotted yourself. I just don't think Liefeld has any idea how to do that, specifically in this era, and the evidence is sitting in front of you. It is a mess from a story perspective. And I get a lot of people who chime in on my videos, and they'll say, they'll either agree with me and be like, right, this story's a mess, Liefeld's art sucks, Liefeld's a clown, we all hate him. And then there's people who chime in and go, I get what you're saying, but I still like Liefeld, and I still have fond memories of Youngblood. And I get it. This was an incredible time. It was so exciting. Those early 90s, I still look at these with fondness because of the fun and the excitement of the time. I talk about this often on a lot of my videos with all these old comics, specifically the Image titles, So many of them, we look like people get offended when I say something is terrible. And they're like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Why don't you just, why don't you just review things you love? I'm like, well, I do love these in a way, but I'm also talking about objective assessment. From a story perspective, they're absolute garbage, but childhood nostalgia is powerful. And, you get older and you got to look at it for real, and you have to be honest with yourself. There's no one that can tell me that these are good stories. It's just an opinion, it's art, sure, but come on, objectively, this is a terrible mess. But again, there's good ideas. I think that there's possibility for the Youngblood characters for sure. But Liefeld has never made that happen. This was a mess. And then he's done several volumes, reboots, restarts. I think there's 4 different reboots, restarts. When he went on to do the next Youngblood series, starting with issue 6 up through, I think he did to issue 10 or something like that. There was a little bit more of a cohesive story going on. Not too bad, for Liefeld and Youngblood. And then most recently, I've done a video on this one, the one he's done just this year. As of this recording, I did a video on this about a month ago, and he's just taken the Youngblood characters again and starting over. They're all sitting here like at a movie theater, eating popcorn, going to watch a movie or something. I went on for like an hour about this book. It's just awful. He is no better 3 decades later than he was all this time way back when, in terms of story. I will also make the argument, artistically, he's regressed. This stuff in these old books is a million times better than this shit, but that's a separate story. So why am I here? I mean, it's probably in the title of the book, or the title of the video. These are the original series, but what's changed? So I'm going to set these aside. I was recently on that Facebook page where I pick up comics all the time, and somebody had this thing right here available. And normally I don't know if I would have paid attention, but Mr. Liefeld, in addition to putting out this current comic, the new one that he's doing, this guy here, I've seen him on his social media showing remastered versions of the original series, like shiny covers and new coloring and all this stuff. And I've watched some of my fellow YouTubers review those books. And I thought that these were some new thing, the remasters that he's putting out. But what somebody explained in a video on their own was that these new remasters that he's putting out as single floppy issues, again, not this one, not this new series, but it's just reprinting the original books, these things. But what it is it's a couple of years ago, Rob Liefeld had Joe Casey re-script the entire Youngblood miniseries. Now, once I heard that, because I was kind of anxious, I wanted to get those floppy remastered issues. But once somebody said, it's just the Joe Casey re-script, he's just repackaging it again and reselling it, I was like, oh, well, fuck that. I'm not going to pay $20 or $30 or $40 for an issue for a single floppy. That is some bullshit. But once they kind of explained it, it was this Joe Casey re-script. I'm like, oh, right. I remember hearing about that. I was always curious, but I never sought it out. Somebody on this Facebook page had this book, and they were offering it for $70. Now, the cover price is $34.99. So $70 is some fucking bullshit, but the market is whatever anyone will pay. I talked them down $10. So I paid $60 for this. If I were to try and get the single issues from Liefeld's, his Rob Liefeld Creations or his Whatnot page, paying $20 or $30 for a single floppy, I actually got a bargain. That being said, this might be unbelievable to hear me say, considering my constant ragging on Liefeld's storytelling, his art, his ridiculous comics, and he can't craft a story for shit. I actually kind of love this. It is actually fantastic. I cannot believe that I'm saying that, but it's everything that Youngblood should have been. It's like the version of it that always should have existed. One thing that was always talked about in interviews, people talk about this a lot. I remember on the Kayfabe channel, they would mention it several times that Liefeld would talk about the characters in Youngblood and say they are, it's what if the superheroes existed in real life, they'd be massive celebrities. So he'd talk about in the comic, they're going to be big celebrities. It's going to be movie deals, action figure deals, the paparazzi, everything that celebrities go through in addition to being superheroes. And that concept barely existed anywhere in these original books. They kind of mentioned it in passing here and there. Joe Casey rescripts everything to make that a major part of this book where you actually feel that is an important character component of these characters in this book. So we're going to go through the whole thing. And, I can't imagine this would be anything but an hour-long video, anytime I do multiple issues. I'm going to do my best to not shit on the artwork of Rob Liefeld in all these places where things are so weird, because I've already done that in every one of these issues individually. Although there are some interesting artistic things that cropped up that I do want to talk about. But I'm mostly interested in showing you how the story's been recrafted and reshaped to make it interesting. It's actually fascinating. I have flipped through this thing. I've only owned this thing for like 4 days as of this recording. I flipped through it and read it every day I've had it. Sometimes the first time I was kind of like flipping through it, kind of perusing it, and then a little bit later in the day, I read the first issue, and I was like, this is fascinating. The next day, I'm kind of reading the whole thing. Day 3, I busted out the original comics. I was going through page by page, looking at the remaster and the original page, see how they changed the dialogue, how they changed the art, how they changed the coloring. Fascinating through and through. And I don't know if this is this is the only way this was ever originally put together. Like this rescript from Joe Casey was only ever released as this collected book. I mean, I wonder. It's pretty beautiful. They take the cover to issue 3 and make it the main cover to the book. You got the cover to issue 4 on the back. Everything's recolored. So there is cover to issue 1. Also, if you maybe can't tell exactly, let me see if I can't show you. The collected edition, a little bit bigger. Not huge enough to make a massive difference. It's not like it's an artist edition or some shit, but it's a little bigger. And just that little bit of increase in size, it stands out. It looks really good. So checking out the cover, it's the same thing. And one of the first things that stood out to me, there were 2 things that I've kind of said before, and I'm actually going to kind of take one of them back. First off, this is old school Rob Liefeld art. The way that he draws these characters here is not the same way that he draws these characters here. He just changes his shapes on everything. Like, he draws legs as just these straight kind of shapeless cylinders rather than these big, thick, meaty, weird looking shapes. And I gotta say, I like his old style of rendering these things a lot better. But this old school Liefeld art, where he inks himself, where as far as I understand it, he uses the Hunt 102 dip pen. It gives a very specific, unique line to his work that has some life and bounce and excitement to it 1,000 times better than the technical pens that he uses these days. It's not even close. In my opinion, this old stuff looks so much better. And just flipping this open for the first time and comparing the art to seeing how the old cover looks, this recolor is 1,000,000 times better. I never liked the old colors on the old books. It's done by Brian Murray. No disrespect to him, but he can't color for shit. It's just awful. And but I was just like, oh God, this is the sweet spot of Liefeld work. The first few issues of X-Force and the first few issues of Youngblood. He's got this style before he brought on other inkers to work on him. And when he was just inking himself with that dip pen, his line work just has something that's so much more fascinating. And then again, I've said before that I feel like Liefeld's art looks better in like flat, old school newsprint color. But I think this new coloring that goes on here, I think it's Matt Yackey that does the coloring. I'm like, this looks amazing. It's bright, it's colorful, it's vibrant. They were trying to do that with old school coloring techniques back in the 90s, that it just did not even come close to being the same thing. You know, they had to learn, the technology had to develop, people had to learn what they're doing. But man, is the coloring on the new book here, it's so vibrant and it's beautiful. I love it. So we all know how Youngblood starts. It's a flip book, right? You got the team that's at home in the States and the team that works internationally abroad. And then the first issue just starts out, you got Shaft and his girlfriend. There's an assault on his life. And then he gets called away to go meet up with the rest of the team because there's an emergency. And then we get introduced to the other characters. You got your Bad Rock, you got your Die Hard, your Chapel, your Vogue, and then the team. And then they show up, and the bad guys, the four, are busting their teammates out. And then the Youngblood team shows up and beats the shit out of them. And it ends on a big silent double-page splash of, God, I almost call them X-Force, of Youngblood, the home team, showing up to kick ass. And then you flip it over, and it's the away team going to attack Saddam Hussein. They call him Hassan Hussein in Iraq. There's a big fight in the desert. They all show up. They take out the bad guys, and ultimately there's just, you know, there's fight, punch, punch. And Sci-Fire blows up the head of Hassan Hussein. It's bloody, it's violent, and then they go home. That's issue 1. But, you know, you think of Youngblood #1 starts out right here with Shaft and his blonde girlfriend at the mall. Where does this special edition start? Well, we'll get to that in just a second. So yeah, Liefeld, creator, artist, Joe Casey, writer, Matt Yackee, colorist, Russ Wooten, letterer. So we get a breakdown from Mark Millar. I like Mark Millar. I don't like all of his writing because it's got such a mean-spirited vibe to everything, and I don't like that all the time. But here's what Mark Millar has to say about this. Those of you who think the whole celebrity superhero thing started with The Authority or Ecstatic or all those other beloved tomes from the fresh-faced half of this decade are in for a shock. In fact, you're about to feel downright stupid. Because the truth is that all us cool, cutting-edge Brits, we writers with the funny accents, bad teeth, and shelves crammed with cheap plastic awards, came to the party more than a decade too late. The simple fact is that 2 Americans got there first, and their names were Rob Liefeld and Eric Stevenson. Flip ahead if you don't believe it. Superheroes on chat shows, superheroes broadcasting sponsorship deals, and spandex-clad teens worried about their sex lives going public all appeared in a little comic from Image back in 1991. That book's name was Youngblood, and it sold several million copies in those first few months, so you'd be forgiven for missing it. I have to take issue with what he said here. All of this stuff about the celebrity status was almost non-existent in the fucking book. Yes, it was mentioned in passing here or there a little bit, but it was not the primary focus. So, again, it was hinted at, but it never actually came to fruition. So he's kind of exaggerating, and I think it's a little bit bullshit. It is 100% in this book, though. He continues, though, it was brash, it was bold, it was everything that traditionalists hated and the mainstream adored. Even now, when I let my family into the hallowed vaults of Millar Manor to peruse my back issues, the wee boys always, without exception, descend upon Rob's books and his Youngblood work in particular. That I can understand, and I can't imagine anyone disagreeing with. If you take a bunch of kids who don't read comics and throw out a bunch of random books, throw out some DC stuff, some Marvel stuff, put some Rob Liefeld books, I bet you the random people pick up the Liefeld shit because it just grabs your eye. I 100% believe it. It's kind of disheartening in a way, but to people who don't know any better, they're going to gravitate to the Rob Liefeld stuff. It just, I completely agree with that. I completely believe it. It says his balding, paunchy critics will bleat about his figure work, his crazy layouts and poses, just too exciting for their tiny brains to comprehend. But these are exactly the same slobs who would have lavished Kirby in his lost decade, castigating the king as too cartoony in an era that only craved Adams-inspired photorealism. If you want to appreciate how good Rob truly is, then wave his books under the noses of that audience mainstream comics long forgot. These pages are like catnip to the kids, and it's no surprise that he remains the biggest selling artist of his generation. Really? I don't Oh, that's true. Scrubbed up with some new computer coloring and a fresh post-millennium dubbing from Joe Casey, a writer with a very good ear for natural dialogue, and you have a smart, good-looking collection in your hands and a little piece of history you might have missed. Enjoy the future of superhero comics all over again. I don't like the part where he's pretty insulting to people who have criticism. Like, I get what his point, and he's being a little bit hyperbolic. But that being said, let's start the comic. So you remember how Youngblood #1 started? Well, it actually starts with the opening page of issue 2. You flip open issue 2, and there you have. It is now page 1 of the collection rather than page 1 of book 2. So here's the thing, Joe Casey, I couldn't imagine anybody doing any better than what he did, taking and re-scripting Youngblood and making it interesting. That being said, he's still confined in a box. What I mean is, obviously, that they don't change the art at all. So Joe Casey doesn't get to come along fresh and say, I want to do Youngblood, I'll use the basic premise, but we're going to like redo it from scratch. He has to re-script the words on the pages as they exist. So you are confined. And that can be profoundly challenging. I'd love to actually kind of find out from him, how long did it take to kind of read everything and shuffle things around and craft a story that makes sense? And I say about 98%, it's flawless. There's a couple of things that don't make any sense. And that's honestly, it's because of Liefeld's shit-ass storytelling. And we'll get to that. But considering what he had to work with, it's like you just take the art existing as it is and re-script the entire thing. And then the only thing that's different is that the one thing I was really and truly interested in is the book 5 that wraps up the Youngblood story, drawn by Chap Yap. Like, they couldn't possibly have the same story. Like, they wouldn't put this in the back there re-scripted. So Liefeld did redraw the ending of the book, and we'll kind of compare and contrast when we get there. But that's the only thing new, is just Liefeld drawing a few new pages. I think it's like 8 pages to wrap up the story. But if you get my point, I hope, where, you know, to Joe Casey's credit, he just has to take this and work within the confines of what exists. And I think taking the berserkers at the beginning and putting them right up front, when you think about everything that happened in the books, all of those books, and the individual ones like this, just feel like random events loosely put together that don't make a lot of sense. And Joe Casey did a thing where I was like, oh, that actually makes perfect sense. So what it is that it says another time, another place, another dimension, a dark dimension, decay. And so you got Cross. He's like, eyes wide, tame, first line of defense, coming up fast. And you got Wildmane here. He's like, by the hounds of perdition's flames, finally something to sink our teeth into. Launch unqualified carnage. It's kind of silly, but it gives this guy some characterization. And so real quickly, they take just the opening scenes of the berserkers, and they're in another dimension, like it's like I said, entirely different dimension, and they're trying to stop the great evil that exists that's out conquering the universe. It's these team of superhero adventurers trying to stop evil. And they run into the guy's name's Jackson Kirby, obviously supposed to be a Jack Kirby thing. He's short, he's got the smoke, he's got the gray hair. And so they're just trying to stop this ultimate evil. And this was the end of issue 2. This spread right here was like the last page of issue 2. In the book, they're just there out of the blue. They're running around. They're talking about stopping some bad guy. And then you get some bad guy standing there. And then we jump over, and then Prophet shows up and kind of takes over the book. But right at the end of this book, out of the blue, if I could get to it, it just goes from the team fighting some monsters, and then the berserkers just show up. But then you never see them anywhere in the rest of the book, except in like standing in the background of some other pages in the original series. It doesn't make sense. I do have to say I'm kind of mad that on this spread that the seam of the book crosses right across Wildmane's ass, because I pointed this out. Liefeld drew him fucking naked. Like, his ass and his dick are totally hanging out. He's got these big shoulder things. And yes, he still has two left feet. If you look at the way that they're shaped, and this foot's only got 4 toes, that one's got 5, and that one's only got 4. It's kind of a shame that his ass crack is folded into the ass crack of the book. So, all that being said, it automatically reframes the entire story. It's some other team of adventurers on, like, the final push to stop an ultimate villain. They're fighting all these bad guys, and to show something interesting here in terms of art and the challenges they faced in this. Let me bring this up close. Look at Wildmane right here. Look at his arm coming down, and then look at this blob of color. This stood out immediately to me. I'm like, what in the fuck happened there? I'm like, what's going on? So I had to dig out the old book. And if you notice, that's where a word balloon was. You can see the word balloon was there. And so I guess the lettering is done on the actual original art. It has to be that, or you know, they must not have access to the original art boards. There's no other reason why they would just kind of color in a blob where his hand just disappears into the universe. And I think, well, get a digital artist to kind of like fake the line work a little, just extend his hand a little bit and fill in some black shapes, like just digitally fill it in. But I guess you don't want to alter the line work that Liefeld put down. I get that, and I don't see Liefeld giving a fuck. He's not going to do it. So it's just interesting. You can see there was a word bubble there, and so they didn't know what else to do. How else do you solve that? He doesn't have any dialogue that needs to be said, but you'd think that they would maybe take these 2 bubbles here at the top and maybe spread them out and put one there. Maybe? I'm not a letterer. I could see this is the best way to do it, but just to cover up that blob. Really weird, but again, it's a challenge they have to face. It crops up several times in this book. And then there's some other places where you'd think it would be a problem and it's not. But anyway, so yeah, you got the team. They just show up. There's more characterization in their lines of dialogue in this remastered version that ever existed in the miniseries. So again, Joe Casey is giving them some characterization that actually makes them interesting. They're like, all right, we got to go stop this bad guy. Let's charge, team. We got to make our final push to stop the evil warlord that's threatening the universe. And so then you flip over and they're just charging into battle. It's an awesome start. It's just like another team in the universe trying to do good. And if you kind of think about the premise of a story, they're probably not going to succeed. And who is going to stop them? Well, that's where Youngblood comes into play. So that's fun. And then we kick it over, and I keep forgetting about this fucking bad guy. He is nowhere in the book except this first page, and then in the original miniseries, he shows up in a few panels in issue 4, and then they kind of beat him in issue 5. He was nothing. He's just another villain that shows up and stands there and tries to be ominous and imposing, that happened in all those Extreme titles, including Top Cow and Wildstorm. They all had their ultimate super bad guys that were kind of influenced by, like, similar to like being a Thanos or Darkseid or Apocalypse or some kind of hyper super evil villain that's the ultimate bad guy that no one can defeat. And that's who this guy is. And Liefeld's books were littered with these fucking guys. In fact, no surprise, he tried to put one in this remaster, and I went over at length how this is the introduction of the ultimate villain in this one. Just a little guy in the bottom corner. He never gets a glory shot in this book. He just spends all the time giving glory shots to all his superhero team, but the main villain in the golden armor and the red cape, he's just consistently a little guy, occasionally in the background. He never gets that ominous, super badass shot anywhere. Nowhere. It's so fucking ridiculous. At least he did it right here. There he is, imposing as hell. And then Joe Casey alters the dialogue to make him at least sound awesome. So this little wormy golem thing, he's like, Lord Darkthorn, the Berserker squad has... And so Darkthorn says, they have been intercepted in mid-leap, meaning they were like, they opened up a teleportation portal to like teleport themselves to Darkthorn. And he's just like, I intercepted them mid-transport. For as long as I desire, they will be trapped within crash limbo. So it's like instantly the bad guy's like, I saw them coming and they're stuck, which explains why the fuck they don't show up in the rest of the book. It's just an idea of these superheroes trying to stop him, and he caught them. So, and then it says, Darkthorn, a despot with insatiable appetites. He continues here, I have lived my life by a deep prophecy. Jackson's inexperience has long been his undoing. A fate has been effectively sealed. His place of origin, the planet Earth, resides within a dimension parallel to ours. Thus, we will conquer this Earth as we have so many others before it. It is my will to power. It is my malevolent destiny. I am the chaos bringer. I am the extinguisher of all light. So I'm instantly way more interested in this character just based on reshuffling of pages and dialogue that kind of makes him sound scary. He's this bad guy from another dimension. He trapped the other heroes and he just conquers dimensions. And he's like, what's the next one? Oh, it's this Earth that Jackson Kirby here is from. He's like, I'm going to go to his planet and tear him up. So now we get introduced to Youngblood. And so this page, this was like the end of, was it the away team in issue 1? Yeah. They get rid of this fucking, who cares about what happened to Hassan Hussein? They change everything to show that this former FBI guy is now a leader of the home team of Youngblood. Brilliant use of the page. It's genius. I love it so much, if you can't tell. So now it starts out, now we get into the story proper and in terms of like what we kind of remember. So again, it's Shaft and then his supermodel new girlfriend. Shaft has just barely been assigned leadership of the team. And he's talking about how he wants to be just doing things that make sense, making a difference, righting wrongs. He doesn't care about the celebrity end of it. And she's a supermodel. She's kind of advising him in it. Now it's kind of similar to what happened in the original series, but there's much more characterization in the dialogue that makes it 1,000 times more interesting. I'm not going to read it all to you because we're already half hour into it and we're just barely a few pages into the book. So now we take the opportunity to see Shaft be a hero. Somebody like is ripping off someone, so he leaps into action down the stairs, dives on the guy. We get that classic Liefeld like Satan face for a heroic guy with that monstrous evil look on his face. And while he's holding this kid down, we see somebody else from above. He's saying, Lone Tiger to gate, op center, target in sight, preparing to engage. You people make sure my paycheck clears in my offshore account, because this new Youngblood's about to have his career cut way short. And of course, Shaft notices it, throws a pen into his throat. He falls down to his death, and he's kind of shocked at how he's like, it's, you know, my last day on the job as an FBI agent, and he had to use the pen that he was given on his last day as an FBI agent to kill somebody who's trying to kill him because he's a new member of Youngblood. So again, celebrity status, people want to take him out. It's already kind of building to that. Of course, the news paparazzi shows up and they start throwing all kinds of questions at him that he doesn't want to answer. Like, is this your first confirmed kill as a Youngblood? He's like, what? You guys just get out of here. And so in the original story, let me adjust my camera here. This big ass book. Shaft, he gets a beep, like a beeper going off, like getting an alert. You need to show up. There's a conflict. And so he runs off to go join his team. But here, he's actually getting so overwhelmed with the paparazzi, he runs off and says, I got to get out of here before these assholes piss me off. He's like, I'll call you later. So he's not running to go join his team to go kick ass. He's running away from the celebrity status thing. It reshapes everything. He's not just a badass going to go fight. He's getting away from all these people asking him questions he doesn't want to answer. Cut back to Badrock down here. And Badrock, he's a 16-year-old kid in this monster body. He's talking to his mom. He's like, Mom, those game developers call again. Just give them my cell number, okay? She's like, Thomas, chew your food before you swallow. And he says, I need to set those chumps straight. Got to be more combo moves during higher level gameplay. So he's always, all he's interested in right here as a 16-year-old kid is his celebrity game endorsements. And he wants to make sure the game is awesome. So then he takes off and he leaves, and Mother's super happy with him. Die Hard. In this version, he's much more emotionless, much more like, he's like RoboCop. And I've honestly, from day one, thought of Die Hard as kind of like a RoboCop. He talks with a little bit more human emotion in the original series. Joe Casey makes him a much more of like an emotionless, kind of rigid warrior that's like Superman level power. Not Superman, that's a bit of an extreme. Extreme, get it? I just remember Liefeld one time described Die Hard as the team's Superman. He's not Superman strength, but he's like considered maybe the most powerful. And he just, you know, the computers start him up, off you go, and he just launches. It says Die Hard unit has cleared launch, but he's just flying through the sky. Cut to Chapel in bed with the hot babe. Now, in the original book, I remember the kayfabe guys just ragging on this something fierce because it says it's 1:11 p.m. So it's like 1 in the afternoon, and he's just banging a girl. Another night, another love. Chapel, my man. Youngblood membership has its privileges. And so he gets a beeper, you know, going. He's like, babe, get up. Get the fuck out. Get out. You're done. You got your banging. We're out here. Also, one of the things I thought was interesting is the girl he's in bed with, like Chapel, he's a black guy. They colored the girl to be with. She's a black girl. Like, that's the same skin tone, right? Well, they recolored her to be a white chick in this one. Chapel's like, where are all the white women at? But in this one, he's laying in bed. He's like, give me a few more minutes. I'll be ready for round 4. And she's like, round 4? You're not done yet? You're killing me, baby. He's like, well, we all got to die sometime, right? Might as well. Uh-oh, got a call. Damn, they're looking for me. Time to go. She says, you got to work? Does that mean I can see you in uniform? You promised. He's like, fine. So he's a little bit less heartless. Like in the original book, he's like, bitch, get lost. And this time he's like, sorry, I got to go. I got things to do, you know. And she's like, I want to see you in uniform. He's like, fine. So again, look, that's like Caucasian skin tone. She's not a black girl anymore. Little weird. But there he is. And he's like, is this what you want? Does this turn you on? She says, how come you didn't wear all that before? That's what I wanted. So again, it's getting into the celebrity status. What did he say? What did she say in the original? Yeah, nothing. It's just pointless. Another thing that I liked. Now we get our introduction to Vogue. I got to say Vogue gets the shaft, hinted it, in this book. But meaning she doesn't have almost any character arc at all. She's just there. But that's how it was in the original Liefeld version. In this one, it has like text box that says, it's been 5 hours since I was paged. Shaft's probably pacing the halls by now. They think I'm at their beck and call. Let him wait. That's the original dialogue. Trying to give her some kind of characterization that she got the pager beep just like Shaft did, just like Chapel did. But she's running around the rooftop. She doesn't give a fuck. In the new version, there's no text about her at all. It's brilliant. It's characterization through silence. There's the city shot. She's just leaping off the roof, jumping through the night sky. And there's nothing. So it creates mystery. You know that she's part of the team because you'd understand through the cover, but just like, who is she? So then the dialogue is now Shaft. He's back at headquarters. It says, so am I the only one that's where Sentinel's Iraqi op has been leaked? So that was something that was talked about when Shaft was talking with these reporters. They're asking about, hey, we hear the away team's off in Iraq. And Shaft's like, God damn it, his secret team, or the away team, their secret mission's been leaked to the public. And so then it cuts to a page from the flip side of book 1, but the flip side of the away team with the news reporters giving some background on the Iraq assault, the Youngblood away team, the political ramifications of what's going on. So we've been introduced to several of the main home team, and now we're talking about the away team off doing something. And then what do we get? Great double page splash. Again, I look at this stuff and you can pick apart Liefeld's weird art, but this is the era where his weird art had a profound charm that just works. And I think this looks incredible. The original, It's still pretty good, but look at the difference in coloring. Like, this Matt Yackey took this stuff and gave it shines and glows and gave it kind of a fiery desert background. It's just 1,000 times better. So again, I used to say I like these old school flat colors on newsprint for Liefeld's art best. I eat my words in this case. This stuff makes it look amazing. This fully rendered stuff, there's been books where his artwork has had this fully rendered modeled coloring on his art, and I just don't think it looked as good. But this, I love it. And part of it is because it's his old art style, where he's inking himself. It's got this really interesting, lively line work. I love all these like rando soldiers jumping out of the almost kind of well-drawn helicopter. It's not just an oval with a couple of blades and a couple of little landing skids. There's actually kind of a helicopter drawn back there, and all these other soldiers just jumping out. This looks amazing. I couldn't believe it when I was reading this. Like, I've read this story a million times. I've looked at this art a million times, but this is a new version of the story. Sentinel's a good leader. They will introduce the concept that Brahma, from what I read in the book, he's basically a brand new recruit. He's kind of a new guy. Riptide kind of wants out. And Cougar and Combat here kind of got like a combative relationship. They kind of like had some words back and forth in the original one, but they weren't really like hating on each other, but they kind of add kind of an adversarial kind of relationship between these two, which makes them interesting. So yeah, they're diving into battle to fight the Iraqi soldiers. And again, there's this kind of talk back and forth about, do we have the right intel? Hey, stay focused on the job. Of course, Combat's a giant warrior alien creature, and he keeps talking about what being a warrior on his planet means versus on this planet here. I can't help but pay attention and notice once again on this scene, Combat has the world's biggest fucking gun you've ever seen as he's falling. And then in the next page, he's got this teeny tiny, tiny little guy. This is the shit that drove me nuts with Liefeld. I still kind of like the art, his just weird proportions. Like, Combat grew to be unbelievably massive. But he's got this little teeny tiny gun. You could almost mistake it for he can mass shift like Stupid Maul from Wildcats. Maybe that's why his gun is so small. He just grew bigger. That's not the case. It's just Liefeld doesn't give a shit. But leaving that aside and his gun going from giant to micro, the coloring's great. And again, the dialogue, it just kind of explains everything that makes much more sense. I like how Cougar silently jumps into battle there. And then, so they just kind of go about the battle. It's kind of the same concept. Again, he has to write within the confines of what exists, but they're still having kind of personal conversations about the things that are going on in their personal lives as being celebrities. Like Riptide, Brahma's talking about another bitch session about your contract. And she says, for the 100th time in the field, it's Riptide, get it straight, kid. It's enough. I have to pull water from the goddamn desert to make these waves. So, she's talking about contract disputes, things like that. And then we cut back to Youngblood team at home. And this kind of great shot of them all standing there. Shaft is still talking about how the away team's operation has been leaked. And they're like, wait, we didn't leak this thing. I don't know how that happened. But then they get an alert. Hey, the 4 are trying to, there's 2 of them in prison and the others are trying to bust them out of jail. So like, hey, we're excited. Let's go beat these guys' asses. And again, there's the dialogue just makes them much more interesting. You have to get it to read it. But they're like, all right, well, whatever's going on with the away team, we've got our own stuff to do. Let's go team. So again, we're setting up that the team has, they're a superhero team. They're the protectors of the country, and off they go to do cool shit. Back with the away team, they're beating ass on the soldiers of the Iraqi, the bad guys that they're facing. The team gets zapped down because Hassan Hussein's got some giant robotic soldiers. The only one that it didn't affect is Sci-Fire. And Joe Casey interjects a whole bunch of dialogue into Sci-Fire's kind of personality. He was kind of portrayed as a psychotic madman, but not to a great degree. But here you get much more kind of an idea of what kind of a loose cannon this guy is. Back outside, Combat's getting his ass beat by a giant robot thing that showed up. I guess they're done fighting the humans, and Combat's pissed off, so he's going to show up and start kicking ass. Yeah, beats the shit out of him. And Combat's kind of talking about, again, his kind of perspective being an alien warrior from somewhere else, and this is what things are like on my planet. And Cougar's like, you want to wrestle with the extremities of the soul. Maybe you should talk to the team-sanctioned therapist back in Washington. And Combat's like, psychology, another human myth of spiritual attrition. And Cougar says, oh, great, now you're a Scientologist. Let's just get inside before we miss the real party. So I know I keep saying it, but Joe Casey has just interjected all kinds of characterization into these guys that makes them so much more interesting. You get back with the White House, and it's the president talking to his advisors about how the world's crazy with all these costume heroes out there, and then they're doing celebrity things, but this is the world, this is how it is. Back with the home team, you got Strong Arm and Gage. They actually, what's interesting is, in this version, this is supposed to be like a news helicopter. It's like it's got the number 4 on the side. But in this version, these two idiot assholes are in the helicopter. That's what they use to get to the little semi-truck down here that's got their other teammates captured. And they jump out of the helicopter to land on the ground. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So they jump down, they rip open the back of the truck, and there's Deadlock and Starbright. And they have some conversation back and forth, making them 1,000 times more interesting. And oh shit, Die Hard's on the scene, smacks him, punches him. And they're like, that the best you got? Coming alone was your first mistake, robot. And Die Hard says, negative assumption. I'm simply the first wave. Look behind you. And so we get that awesome double-page spread. Now, this is one time where I kind of feel like I could go with either version. I like how in the original, it's just a giant double-page spread and there's nothing on it. No words, no quippy dialogue, nothing. It's just, there's the heroes, the end of the story. In this one, there's some dialogue, and I think both work. Badrock says, these dorks never learn, do they? And Vogue says, the entire 4, all at once, finally, a true battle royale. Shaft says, careful what you wish for, Vogue. Let's just do our job here, people. Safeguarding America, protecting mankind, all that good stuff. Now, all operatives, engage. I think both work, actually. This is one time where I could take the original Liefeld version where it's just kind of silent and they're kind of awesome. But we're back with the away team. And so Sci-Fire has some conversation back and forth. He's just basically explaining what an insane nutball he is, how he's kind of not the normal, rational person that some of his teammates mistakenly think that he is. And so he uses his mental powers. Like he says here, he says, yeah, even with the psychic dampeners the Pentagon clamped onto my brain, I can still smell your fear. And so Sci-Fire says, right now, you're my dad just coming home and finding mom twisted and broken on the kitchen floor. This is what I did to him. And so energy, wide-eyed. Sci-Fire says, feeling the pressure yet? That's your brain swelling. And great coloring, boom, blows his head up. And so Sci-Fire says, hurts like a son of a bitch. Head feels like oatmeal, breaking through the dampeners, even temporarily. But it was so worth it. So he's basically saying he's got like psychic kind of restrictions placed on him, but he can fight through them without anyone else's knowledge to blow this guy's brains up. And then, of course, as happened in the original book, the team shows up and they're like, holy shit, what did you do? Oh my God, this is crazy. You're a monster. Brahma, they changed it. They even colored it so there's some blood on his face because he got his ass knocked out somewhere. I don't think we saw it anywhere. He was just running around punching, and then he just disappeared. You know, you don't see him get put down. Oh, yeah, he got zapped right here. Okay, right. I forgot about that. He did get put down there, but he shows up. He's got blood on his face to show that he got his ass kicked. But it kind of wraps up, all right, you know, we're here, but I also forgot to mention, they explained on this page right here that the away team is in Iraq because they're there to pick up this there's this thing that they're sent to go pick up, some kind of package, something important in Iraq that Hassan Hussein had. And I don't think they had this connection in the original book. What were they after? What were they going for in Iraq, stopping Hassan Hussein? What did he have that was so important? Profit. I was like, that connection was never established in any way that I remember. It was just like suddenly in the issue 2, you know, we never saw in issue 2 the end to the battle with the home team. We just start out with the Berserkers and then Prophet's there, and some of the away team are there picking up Prophet from somewhere. They don't explain. I mean, it says Berlin and East Germany, but they were in Iraq. So, you know, it kind of makes sense that the team is off picking up this genetic experiment that is Prophet. And they kind of go through the same steps, like he's this genetic Superman from way back in time, and he's been locked away, and we're not sure what he is or what he's about. All the dialogue kind of makes sense and kind of establishes interesting characterization with him. They do these things where this page was not in the original book, but they had to add a page because somewhere coming up here is a double page spread. And when the page counts don't line up correctly, you don't have the double page spread on facing pages. So you have to put a page in there to make the flips of the pages count. So they had to do that here. So they take this shot of him there and just kind of put kind of like a silent shot of him there. And you got this scientist doctor guy explaining his history. I can't help but laugh every time I look at this drawing of the scientist guy. You'll notice he's got his glasses on, but there's no kind of like pieces going from the sides of the glasses back to his ears to hold them onto his face. Liefeld just can't be bothered to fucking care. Did anybody notice that? I don't know. Some people did. I sure did. And I like how they take the history that they're showing, the backstory, and it's in this kind of this color scheme that makes it feel like it's in another time. So yeah, this Dr. Wells, he created this ultimate Superman. They tried experimenting on several people, but it didn't work on anybody but him. He was there to fight some kind of super kind of threat that no one kind of understood what it was supposed to be about. There's another case here. Look up close to see Shaft's arm. See how it says kind of like this invisible coloring? If you can kind of see, like you see his arm and his wrist gauntlet and then the coloring. There was another word bubble cutting right into him right there. And I guess they just don't have the original artwork. So I thought that was just kind of interesting. I want to make sure I didn't miss something important. I didn't. Anyway. So yeah, they just kind of go back and forth like, you know, we're here to collect up this superhuman. We don't want the bad guys to get their hands on him, which they almost did. So thank you, doctors, for finding him. The United States appreciates your assistance. We need to load this guy up and get him back to the States now. And so Combat here, he looks at this guy and he kind of sees a warrior, and he kind of senses that this guy, he actually says in this previous page, Combat says, he has the appearance of a coiled spring. I recognize a fellow warrior, but denied glorious expression. So Combat recognizes, like, this guy has got something to him. Yeah, Combat continues, a warrior without a war. I find myself feeling great empathy for this lost soul. He exists between life and death, never experiencing the righteous taste of battle on his tongue. But let us not mourn. Perhaps our appropriation will provide him with a new future. So he's like, all right, well, it sucks that he's locked away, but if we can have access to him, maybe he's got a future with us. And Cougar's like, hey, maybe you're right. Look on the bright side. He'll make a hell of an action figure. So again, they're working in the celebrity element of it. And Combat, he's like, that's not what I was referring to. He says, my personal view, the doctor is correct about using extreme caution. If this tech is unstable at all, and Cougar's like, come on, let's just get this thing loaded onto the transport so we can get back. In the original book, the dialogue had Cougar fucking around with the technology, touching something he doesn't know about, and he accidentally releases Prophet. In this one, he's like, come on, we just got to load him up and get him out of here. But then Boof, you know, explosion of energy. Prophet is free, and they're like, oh shit. He's free. He got out. There's some sort of accidental release mechanism. Combat says the manner in which he moves, he is unsteady, still getting his bearings. Cougar says, yeah, well, the question is, does he see us as friend or foe? And so you get the awesome shot of Prophet kind of standing there. And in this version, I have to say, Prophet was kind of like a mindless, soulless, single-minded idiot that wasn't very friendly. And Cougar and Combat are kind of jumping into conclusions. In this version, Prophet's a lot more reasonable. He's actually kind of friendly. His goal is to fight the evil Lord Darkthorn. He's been made for that goal, to fight Darkthorn and the disciples. And so he's trying to get his bearings and his senses about him. But he's a little bit kind of confused, and he's trying to get his language translator. And Cougar decides, like, well, I can see that you're disoriented. So while you're still disoriented, I'm going to knock your ass out so we can get you back to where we need to go. It's nothing personal. Prophet tosses him aside, and he asks Combat. He says, are you a warrior of decay? He's like, I'm a Catellan warrior, blah, blah, blah. You may have hurt the guy who I don't particularly care for, but that has sealed your fate. And so he attacks him, knocks him aside. And so this makes Prophet think that these are villains, that these are warriors of Lord Darkthorn and the disciples from Decay. He's like, all right, Dr. Wells warned me that the forces of Darkthorn would possess powers that would rival my own. But this is why I was created, to destroy these invaders and protect the human race. So Prophet's instantly supposed to be a hero. And I know that was basically said in the original comics, but it was never made that clear. He just showed up and was kind of silent, and it was like, get away from me before I kick your ass. It was all like juvenile tough guy talk. Joe Casey's giving him like motivation. He's like, you're one of the bad guys. I am here to protect the human race. Well, these guys are all on the same side then. It's just a case of mistaken identity. Combat's not listening because he's an idiot. He's like, you're speaking gibberish. We are not your enemy. Prophet tosses him into the wall. He says, Prophet says, I've been engineered to kill. Dr. Wells has sacrificed everything for my existence. Combat says, Dr. Wells is long dead, and you will not place your hands on me again. So Prophet keeps punching him away. He's like, he's upset that Dr. Wells is dead. Sentinel shows up. He's like, dude, your information is more than 60 years out of date. Stand down, soldier. We can't waste any time. Riptide, subdue him. This is a part here that I thought was kind of interesting, and I wanted to point out. You remember how I was showing you previously how there's places where the coloring was filling in where a word balloon was before, and they just couldn't finish the line work, so it stood out obvious. Well, in the original book here, look at Riptide. She's got these big dialogue bubbles covering up like her entire left arm. But in this one, in the remastered book, those dialogue balloons are reduced in size, and then there's Riptide's finished arm. That was completely covered by word balloons in the other one. So they must have had the original page to this, because that is Liefeld line work as far as I can tell. I've got a decent eye to see that kind of thing. That looks like his artwork. So it's interesting how in some instances the word balloons must have been on, I'm guessing, the original art, or they were scanning the original pages and the word balloons were just on the printed page and they couldn't back it out, so they just had to color over it. You get what I'm saying. It's just interesting that there's the finished line work there, but in the original book, like I just showed you, it was totally covered up. So it's weird how that kind of goes back and forth. But yeah, Prophet, he's like, I'm just here to protect the human race. You guys must be a bunch of villains. Riptide's like, well, get out of the way. I'm going to put him down. I'm going to use my water powers. I'm going to squirt on him. He's going to love it. So she gushes him, and they says, Brahma, take him out. Brahma's another character that I always felt like deserved a lot more characterization, and he didn't get any, like zero. And then, as I understand it, in Team Youngblood, he ended up kind of becoming a bad guy and killed, and who cares. But Brahma, he says here, I get it, Rip. I hate to admit how much I get off on these Mexican standoffs, but I wasn't drafted to the big game for my subtlety, was I? And then again, we needed a double-page spread. So they took this panel here and that panel there and spread them out to this page here to kind of extend the drama It is a little weird having the same angry, screamy face on facing pages. I would think they should zoom in closer on it, maybe a little bit. But they needed to have that page to preserve the double page spread of him socking him in the face. Liefeld's anatomy is so fucking oddball. It's like just straight cylindrical shape, but for some reason it just kind of works. He can't draw hands for shit, but it just kind of works. Like, it's weird, but I dig it. And they're like, holy shit, I hit him like that. And Sentinel's like, we're dealing with die-hard level power here. So they're kind of explaining just how strong die-hard must be if Brahma, the big strong guy, socks this guy and it didn't put him down. So they keep fighting, and they kind of explain, you know, prophets here, if my fate is to die in battle defending this planet from your aggressions, so be it. And they're like, pal, the war is over. Prophet's like, well, what are you saying? I was created for this function. All those who serve Darkthorn will find themselves at my... And then he's got an internal computer that says, detecting spatial transport system engaging. And what happens? Giant evil robots show up. And these are the disciples. These are the warriors of decay. This is also shit storytelling because out of the blue, some scientist gets shot. You remember the scientist that was way back here in these previous pages? We haven't seen him for how many pages? And he just suddenly vanishes. This scientist guy, he's gone, and then suddenly he's there getting shot. They needed somebody to get vaporized and killed. You can't have the main team. So he's like, oh, the scientist got killed. Piss poor storytelling. But again, you're locked into what is existing, so you just have to do it. So the whole team's like, holy shit, the doctor bought it. And so Cougar says, I'm assuming these guys aren't with you. And Prophet says, my onboard computer tells me that they are the representatives of my true enemy. He says, wild guess here, but they're not of this earth, are they? And Prophet says, they are not. They are warriors forged within the fires of decay. Cougar says, doesn't sound like an idyllic vacation spot for me. Riptide says, Jesus, they're moving in fast. Watch it, team. So we get like, okay, there was a little bit of kind of confusion, and they all thought each one was the enemy of each other. But these are the bad guys. The robots say, all units, target opposition, reprogram for multi-level assault maneuver, extinguish all life, leave nothing standing, all hail Darkthorn. And that's the end of issue 2. So again, if you've read the original Youngblood miniseries, you can see how the restructuring of everything, like I'm interested in this story. I'm way interested. So now we start back on issue 3. Trying to remember how issue 3 started. Oh, yeah. It just starts with Prophet standing there mid-battle and all these things going on, and eventually we get into the home team. Well, again, the reshuffling of the pages, we're back with the home team. The last time we saw them, they were going to fight the 4, and as happened in the original book, the same thing happened here. We don't get to see that fight. We just get that they're already captured and defeated. This is another example of Liefeld's old school art, his weird kind of anatomy, his inking style on his own. Although he does say at some point, I think it's in issue 3 here, where he brings on Danny Meeke as inker. But Liefeld's also said that he didn't like anybody else inking his faces. So a lot of the faces still feel Liefeld, and some of the other line work through this place in certain spots looks like a cleaner line. It's hard to tell the difference. That being said, I kind of dig this shot. The way that that's one of the best images of Badrock I've ever seen. His shoulder pads don't make any sense. They don't even roll around the back of his body. There's nothing holding him onto him. They just float there. But the mean mug look on his face, his big arms, shafts, pose, like I dig all of it. It just looks great. Something about Liefeld's old shit just works. I'm just excited to see. It's like I'm kind of seeing Liefeld's older work for the first time in a fresh way that makes me excited about it again, the way I used to be back in the day. Nothing he does these days even remotely comes close to this. Like, the coolest shot of Badrock in this new series is that one right there. And in my opinion, it's not even remotely close. This thing is infinitely better. And again, all the dialogue is just back and forth between like their kind of legal representative talking about, we're going to have you on interviews, we're going to have press conferences, they're going to ask about the team in Iraq, just kind of avoid that. And Shaft doesn't want to be part of it, but he has to. Another interesting component is that Badrock is constantly saying, hey, put me in front of the reporters. I want to talk to them. And they keep being like, no, we're not putting a 16-year-old monster kid in front of the reporters. You're not ready for that shit. But he keeps wanting to get in front of the reporters. And that's something that goes through the rest of the book. So again, this is building in the celebrity status of it all. And of course, they're in this prison where they have the four locked up, and they have some words back and forth with him about, you're locked away, and, you know, we kicked your ass, and you're in jail. So they're taking off, they're leaving, and this is another one of those random elements where Liefeld, like, he's got all these ideas, he sees a shiny thing, and it sends him off into this other direction where there's this other new character, this character that shows up, but they're just showing, like, besides the fact that the team's gonna have to fight the ultimate evil, Lord Darkthorn, there's a bunch of villainous superhumans that the regular team has to take care of as well. Now we shoot back to Prophet and the battle going on overseas. Good shot of Prophet standing there. A lot of text just kind of explaining who he is and what he's all about in a way that makes him so much more interesting than he ever was in the original miniseries. This is where Joe Casey gets to make the stuff work. Is just places where he gets to put in dialogue boxes that makes the characters interesting. He's saying that he's having a hard time getting his memories back online, but all he knows is that he's there to fight these monsters, and the one thing that he remembers that keeps him kind of sane, the one piece of information that is undeniable, he says it out loud: my name is Jonathan Prophet. It's the one thing that he's like, I know what I am, I know who I am, I might be confused and a man out of time, but I know what I am and why I'm here. And so we get the big spread of pages of him fighting these giant robot things, just showing what a badass Prophet is. I actually really like this shot down here where it's just this red. And so you get to see almost like just the black and white line work of Liefeld's original artwork there. It's kind of interesting. That kind of works. So yeah, a lot of dialogue back and forth. He's fighting all these bad guys. This is where some more of the confusion shows up. Because if you remember at the beginning, we got the Berserkers, right? They were charging into battle, and the bad guy says, I've locked them into status, and they can never get away. Well, suddenly, here they are. That's Jackson Kirby, that is Cross, and that's the only members of the Berserkers. So if you were reading this book fresh for the first time, this version, you'd be like, who are these guys? Or you'd be like, how are they there with the team? He's showing how the Youngblood members are all knocked on their asses. They're down, and only Prophet continues to stand. So again, you're locked into what is originally there, but they don't explain it at all. Meanwhile, we get into another subplot. Combat's alien race. And they're kind of built to be like Klingons, honestly, from Star Trek. His name's Combat with the K. He's from planet Catella. It's like Klingons. They're a warrior race. And they're searching the planet, trying to find him. And this guy's like, basically, he wants to vaporize the planet to cinder. He's like, this is some backwater bullshit planet. I want to vaporize them forever. And but we're not allowed to by treaty. And then there's a voice off panel says, you will do no such thing, Catellan. Your own superiors would have you executed. And so now you get a member of the race of people, the Acurans, the race of Photon, the member from the book that you see almost zero of anywhere in this book. But what's interesting to me is the dialogue that she speaks here. It says, our races are evolutionary enemies, but this crime will be investigated in accordance with established logic laws. So in the way that these Catellans are like Klingons, they're almost Vulcan-like, to use another Star Trek reference. She's very rigid with her understanding of rules and laws and logic. And they're like, you will not do that. We are bound by law. And they talk about how there was a traitor that did something horrible, but they can't tell if it was Combat or Photon. And both of them fled to Earth to hide. And so now they're searching for them, and they're trying to figure out which one of them was the traitor that caused this horrible thing to happen. And as soon as they find him, whichever one is the traitor will be executed immediately. I don't know if that storyline was ever resolved. I'm assuming it must have in some other book. But I like the setup. I'm like, oh my God, there's future storylines right there. Back with the home team, Shaft has to interact with the public. He's got to answer questions. And he's like, look, I don't know how many ways I can tell you this. I'm not here to comment on the covert activities of the away team. But we did capture the 4. They're the FBI's most wanted. We put them away. And the news reporters keep asking about the involvements of a foreign team away off in Iraq. And he's like, look, I can't tell you about any of this, guys. That's not anything I can comment on. And so, you know, bunch of dialogue. Again, all interesting. You should go pick this up and read it. You'll love the story. Oh, shit, they get an alert. There's something going on back at the detention center where the 4 were locked up. So we cut back to this weird girl who was, you know, we saw a little bit ago, says 20 minutes later, enough to commit several murders. Her name, appropriately enough, is Showdown. Each and every death brings her closer to her goal. But life is not without its complications. Again, there was no characterization to this chick in the previous books. Not one bit. Instantly, it's already got some more interesting kind of backstory to her. In jumps the team. There's Chapel, Shaft, and Badrock. Like, didn't we just put these guys down? It's like, well, who cares? Be careful, everyone. We're outnumbered, so take them down. Badrock's like, hey, who's the chick with the antenna face? We get the awesome double-page shot of Shaft doing a twist shoot, shoots the arrows. And I like it here. She says, arrows. That's cute. She just catches them. That's pretty awesome. She says, honestly, I expected much better from you, Terrell. And Shaft says, whatever, the informality is a nice touch, by the way. You might as well surrender before I decide to actually aim this next shot. So, you know, they have some back and forth. She's like, you know, I've heard about how you like to use ancient weapons like bow and arrows. So she's like, how about testing your skills against these adversaries who are equally proficient in the timeless arts of war? And then out of the blue, jump in a bunch of goddamn fucking ninjas. And I dig this. There's an interesting component where in the original book, the goddamn ninjas, jeez, I just got to show you, like, look how much better. I got to flip all the way back. Like, the coloring in the new one is just so much better. This original one, these weird lines in the background, like, it's such a monumental improvement. But in the original book, these ninjas show up. And I actually liked them because they were in, like, white ninja clothes, which doesn't make any sense. A ninja's supposed to be sneaking around in the dark. You don't wear bright white clothes if you're trying to be sneaky ninjas. So the colorist puts them into dark clothes. They take the whole white outfit concept and just jettison it, because here they go. There's Shaft fighting the ninjas in the original book, all in white. Again, I kind of dug it. I kind of like it, but it makes more sense to have them in dark. So it says, and so the dance begins. A silent ninja versus celebrity superhero. They swarm like locusts, a plague of violence descending. For every move, a counter move. But the novelty is worn off. He ends it quick, and thus the lesson is learned. So great action shots. Shaft taking out some ninjas. Standing there awesome. And then there's Badrock smashing the shit out of ninjas. And he says, like, have you noticed how they don't make a sound? It's creeping me out. He said, I thought I was big in Japan. And he says, boss, permission to cut loose on these bozos? And they're like, granted, kid. So he says, yabba dabba doom. Smashes the ninjas away. He's like, yeah, that felt good. I always loved this shot where Ninja jumps up and he's going up, arcing down. He's upside down and then firing arrows. That's a great shot. That's a great action beat. Props to Liefeld. Actually, that is awesome. The arrows hit and snap off his body. He's like, come on, don't think those things are going to get through my skin, right? Look at the awesome coloring. It's like the power went out in the building. So they're like weird spotlighting on him. This uplighting on his face. This shit looks great. I was shocked at how consistent. I'm like, I like the way this book looks. This is Liefeld as he's supposed to be. Smacks him in the face, bam, knocks him down. And I swear there was the page. What was it that Chapel was saying? Chapel had no characterization, as happens all the time. Oh, yeah, he says, damn stupid ninjas. But now he's just like, just silently blowing them away. Here he says, never did understand what good a flying kick did against a gun. But here in the new one, he's like, I'm still waiting for a challenge in this outfit. I'm not even breaking a sweat here. They say, Chapel, 2 more are coming your way. He's like, no problem. Boom, 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 boom. Shoots him down. He says, plenty of ammo left, chef. Like, so where's the 4 hiding? And they look around, and so there's the 4. You got Strong Arm, Gage, Starbright, Showdown, and Deadlock. They're like, you people never learn, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, you know, we'd like to sit here and fuck with you, but we have other things we need to do. So they're going to teleport out of there. So Shaft is like, I don't think so. Chapel, take him. So he shoots. And in the original comic, I always took it as, it looks like he shot him in the head. I mean, he did. Like, there's a line, a distinctive line, smacking him in the head and blood. I thought that it probably would have killed him, but it didn't. In this one, you know, knocks him aside. And they're like, it was just a flesh wound. So they're like, all right, fucker, where'd they go? What's going on? And he's like, Gage is like, just kill me, you piece of shit. And Shaft's like, don't tempt me. But from behind him, you get this dialogue that says, belay that death threat, Shaft. There's another situation that demands our immediate attention. And they're like, what? So we get the awesome shot of Die Hard. He says, the away team is under attack in Berlin. Sensors are reading dimensional displacement. I've gathered the others. There's a transport waiting outside, so let's move. So they're like, the away team is under assault, as we've seen. We need to go help our friends. I'm like, love it. You know, we're bringing the storylines together. We're getting to establish Youngblood. We're getting to understand the characters. We're getting to see them fight other superhuman villains. But there's this ultimate bad guy thing that's building up. And it's already way, way more interesting than anything Liefeld had scripted in the original book. So the team's flying along. Somehow they get from, I think they're in New York, and then suddenly they're over Berlin. Like, this supersonic jet gets there like super fast. So we get the awesome double page spread of the team gathered. It sucks, once again, that the seam of the book puts it right up Die Hard's ass crack. So you can't really see the guy. It kind of ruins the pose. Whatever. Die Hard's basically saying everyone is aware of attack protocols. Be mindful of the combos. We spent time strategizing in the combat simulators. Press any advantage that may present itself. Vogue's like, you are aware this is not World War III. We're not storming the beaches at Normandy. He says, war is an absolute. In time, you will gain the experience to properly recognize that fact. She says, you could not be more dispassionate, could you? And so Chapel here says, will you two just shut up and do it already? Which is hinting at the future storyline where these two are fucking. Like, Vogue's banging the weird RoboCop robot thing. And I love the kind of like emotionless kind of warrior that they're portraying Die Hard to be. He's super powerful, he's super focused, but he's got no kind of feelings about anything. I like it. They keep, Badrock is sitting here talking to Shaft about toy sales and action figures and shit, and Shaft doesn't want to hear about it. He's like, just stop. I don't want to hear about any of this crap. Die Hard says, that's enough arguing. Shaft, in this is the rare instance where my seniority must be taken into account. However, consider my command a temporary circumstance. Shaft's like, no worries, Die Hard, let's just do this. Although if I can make a suggestion for the initial drop, you and Badrock should lead the charge, 100% shock and awe. Like, okay, we agree. The two most powerful, invulnerable characters jump out of the jet to jump down, to fight, or to rescue their teammates who they know that they're under attack, but they don't know how, they don't know why. They dive in there, bunch of the disciples, the robots. So it's like Die Hard wastes no time. He scans the area, can't find his teammates, so he just starts slamming into them, kicking ass. Badrock's like, dude, hold on, leave some for me. They're like, don't get too anxious. I'm sure you'll get your chance. And Badrock's like, I'm itching to throw down just like you. And then from behind them, they're like, hey, if you're here to provide reinforcements for your courageous allies, there's Prophet. He's like, you may have arrived too late. If the armies of Darkthorn gain a foothold here, for all humanity, it could be too late. I can only hope that you have brought an army of your own to wage this war. So I like how Prophet's like, instantly, he's given respect on the name of Youngblood. It's like, your courageous allies, they fought, but they fell. I'm here trying to stop them. And Diehard's like, slow down. You're speaking too quickly. Are you the long lost soldier? He's like, call me prophet. I am no longer lost. My mission has been preordained. And like, oh shit, wait. More teleportation portals are opening up. These are called crash tunnels. And these are the Darkthorn's soldiers. We just have to engage them now. So like they start fighting, and you know, they're like, we're gonna hold the line. They're gonna, if they get through, we're all gonna die. Diehard's like, all right, well, let me play my role as Captain America. So he gets out his big giant shield, smashes into him. We've all seen these pages. These are inks by Danny Miki. This is the point where he has been joined on. The artwork is a little bit less interesting because it doesn't have that unique, rough, lively line that Liefeld has in his original stuff. It's still good, though. And again, Diehard, just being a badass, he's like, I'm going to attack. I'm going to fight. He's not thinking. He's not stopping, but maybe this isn't the time to stop and think. So we get a bunch of action shots. It's all kind of the similar, but the text boxes are making it interesting. Badrock slamming the robots around. And then the other team guys, they finally show up. They're like, all right, hey, what's going on here? Hey, who's this new guy? Are you the one that took our team down? And Diehard's like, no, Chapel, no. This is the cargo Sentinel was sent to Iraq to retrieve. So, you know, Shaft's like, what I want to know is what are you responsible for the injuries to Sentinel and his team? If so, you got some explaining to do, Prophet. And Diehard's like, stand down. He is not our enemy. To the contrary, he's provided valuable intel on exactly what it is we are fighting. They're like, all right, well, this is your chance to convince me what's going on. So, of course, Prophet explains again. He's like, I've been asleep. I'm here to fight these things. They will destroy everything if we don't stop them. Okay, we got, it's Darkthorn who we have to defeat. So again, they're trying to, I like the Prophet. Again, I just got the feeling in the original series that he was kind of combative and kind of a dick. In this one, he's like, I'm here just to help you all. I kind of mistakenly took you for bad guys to start, but I'm here to help you. They're working through their problems. I like it. Diehard takes off to go. He's like, all right, well, they're down this tunnel where another crash tunnel is going to open up. We're going to go stop them. So like, all right, well, Badrock, go with them. You're the tough guy. You two go down there, stop anything that comes your way. Sentinel's picking his ass up with the help of Vogue. And again, they kind of explain what's going on. I'm just kind of blasting through this. I've spent too much time on this video as it is. But again, the dialogue all makes it way more interesting. I love the coloring on this, like this green tone of this energy tunnel that they're going towards. So you got Diehard, Badrock charging into the tunnel, going through it, and they arrive in another dimension. They arrive to see the evil Lord Darkthorn, who we haven't seen since all the way back here. Just his ominous dialogue saying, I am the destroyer of worlds, I am this, I am that. Well, now they're face to face with him. And like, all right, well, hell, we're just going to beat your fucking ass to death right here. And so Darkthorn says, such arrogance, even in the face of your own annihilation. Come forward and experience a taste of entropy, a gift I am pleased to bestow. Diehard charges at him, says, let's see what you've got, despot, and boom, knocked back, done instantly. And so then Darkthorn flashes his eyes. He says, and as for you, misshapen thing, gaze into the fiery pits of Darkthorn's soul. Every microbe of self you possess is mine for the taking. So the team back on the other side of the portal, they're standing there and they're like, they went into that thing? What the hell is that? So then this is something right here that I had big issues with in the original series, and it's equally as nonsensical here as it was in the original series. That being, out of the blue, there is the big strong guy of the Berserkers, who we haven't seen anywhere except in the background of the original opening pages. You get to page 1, there's the big guy. His name is Gray, or Greylore. He's in the background. He's smashing things around. There's his face there. And then they charge into battle to face the villain. He's never seen again. And then suddenly he's just right there. Also, there's Kirby. So it's like it was implied that they were locked into they were going through the crash tunnel and the bad guy locked him into it to stay there forever. I guess you could say since these tunnels have been opened up, maybe it shit them out onto the ground and there they are, but it isn't explained anywhere, here or the original. And what can Joe Casey do? This is what the art looks like. You know what they could do? Digitally erase it. Fucking erase them. They don't need to be there. There's no continuation of these character storylines. It's confusing as hell. But again, what do? This is the original artwork. This is Liefeld's piss fucking ass poor storytelling. He just throws things in there. All that should be standing here are the members of Youngblood. So the tunnel, you got the bad guy coming through. You know the ominous shape in the background. The bad guy says, the moment of destiny has arrived, and as a symbol of my dominance, this pathetic excuse of a planet, you will be destroyed by one of your own. Like, Badrock, what have you done to him? Like, look in his eyes, it's obvious. So bad guy says, indeed, the ritual is as follows. My ascension signals the finale of your race. Resistance will be met in kind. Your world is no different than the countless others that were ultimately incinerated by the unholy energies that fuel me. No different. I exist to conquer. There is no other outcome. You cannot conceive of the attempts to thwart that which is inevitable. Entire legions of warriors decimated, planetary defense systems rendered completely impotent. But your arrogance it almost amuses me. I shall enjoy watching this monstrosity, now under my complete control, take you apart piece by piece. So this right here, this is where the original Youngblood series ended. His original dialogue, like I just read to you all the dialogue, he originally said, your comrade now serves the dark side, and unless profit is surrendered to me, so shall you all. That's all he said. God, look at the difference in the artwork, the coloring. It's so much better over here. So again, Joe Casey's like, I'm going to take and put some dialogue in here that makes him interesting to explain who he is, why he is, what he is. So I feel the threat. And then, of course, it says to be continued in Brigade number 4. You're like, what? It doesn't even, fuck you. So in Brigade number 4, I've went over this, and it's just the worst. Poor chap, yeah, he's trying, but he cannot. He did not have the skills to bring this home, nor was he given an easy task. All these characters, it's supposed to be both teams of Youngblood and the Berserkers and Darkthorn and his disciples. And on top of that, as they start fighting, like Brahma's there, Greylor's there, they hit Badrock. This is one of the things that was just ridiculous. The text is telling you that Darkthorn unleashes a horde of winged demons onto Earth, and the team has to fight them off. And this is all you see of them. You just get the heroes up front fighting, including one of the guys from the Berserkers, and the only elements of the winged creatures you see are like this guy there, and a little silhouette there, and a little silhouette there. And that's it. It's supposed to be this epic, like, horrific battle of the team fighting these hordes of monsters, and you don't see it. But then you get the team fighting against Lord Darkthorn. They blast him away. Sci-Fire, who was apparently there, he wakes up and they unleash him onto Darkthorn. He shows up, uses his mental powers to fuck with his brain, and Darkthorn's like, you know what? This pisses me off. I'm going to leave. I'll come back and take you another day. He just bounces. He just takes off. He's done. And they're like, oh my God, everything's over just like that. God damn, that sucked. And Die Hard's like, yeah, that sucked. And Shaft's like, that sucked. And Badrock says, that sucks. And Prophet and Kirby suddenly become best friends, and they take off to go be together somewhere and make sweet superhero love. And Badrock says, who's going to clean up this mess? That's the original ending. It sucked. So this is the part I was most interested in. What is the ending in this going to be like? Well, you get Liefeld on art. This is modern Liefeld art. Now, this was made, I think it's 2008, 2009. So as of this recording, it's a few years old, but this is modern Liefeld. And there is, to me, such an unbelievable, vast, distinctive difference and a lack of skill and quality from the way Liefeld used to be to what he is now. This stuff sucks. This is his modern work, and it's absolutely shit compared. Like, I'm sorry, again, If you like Liefeld, I get it. If you like what he's done and you're a fan of his, I get it. You can be. Just because I don't like certain things doesn't mean I'm trying to say you can't. So please don't come at me in the comments with the fuck you, Rob Liefeld's awesome, you're just petty and jealous. I've just spent the entire time of this book basically showing how this is the brilliant work, that the way this thing should look. His just modern artwork is not great. So here you go. It does pick up where Badrock is under mental control. Darkthorn sends him to fight. So he crashes into him, smashes everybody down. They do have a similar beat where Sapphire wakes up and Cougar's like, he's under mental control. And Sapphire's like, mind control? Well, that's right up my alley. That's what I excel at. So he locks his powers onto Badrock. And that's kind of a cool shot of Badrock's evil, possessed face. Sapphire's like, let's see what kind of hold they have on you. So then Prophet dives in to fight Darkthorn, and there's just none of the layout excitement that Liefeld had in previous pages going on display anywhere here. Liefeld thinks his work he's doing today is the best he's ever done. 100% not. It is a vast decrease in quality, and he just won't see it because his ego won't let him see otherwise. But Prophet starts smacking around Lord Darkthorn. He blasts him away. We cut back to Badrock facing off against Sapphire. And Sapphire's like, you know, I never liked you, but I don't like anybody. But that means I'm going to enjoy this. Don't tell anyone. So Sapphire is basically locking Badrock down in mental control while everyone else faces off against Darkthorn. And everyone, I mean Prophet. And so, out of the blue from the portal, Die Hard, I guess, picked his ass up, comes through the portal. Now look, Liefeld has either a great design sense or the fucking worst design sense in the history of the planet. This villain, Lord Darkthorn, the way he was established. So he's got this big giant headpiece, these shoulder pads, bare arms. He's got some kind of super tech cyber belt. He's got a big, I don't know, golden diaper. And then some like leggings with points on them, and then there's literally like pipes coming from the back of him, looped around, like connected from his back to his arms, is what it looks like. It's not the greatest design, but it does have kind of like a Jack Kirby kind of fourth world, ominous, dark side, apocalypse, Thanos kind of ultimate villain design. It's not great, but it's not horrible, and with the right artist giving their all, that could look awesome. But look at this. And then look how Liefeld draws him here. He just puts him in some like purple spandex. He eliminates the belt, the underwear, the pointy thigh things. He instantly looks like a fucking idiot. It's such a massive downgrade. He puts the thigh things on him there. He's got a belt thing on there. Liefeld does not give a shit. He doesn't fucking care. He thinks he does, but it's just stupid. So, yeah, Die Hard shows up, smacks him in the face. So now Die Hard and Prophet, they both give him a double punch, boom, boom, 1-2, boom, boom, 1-2, knocking Darkthorn to the ground. He's like, I felt that. No species has ever offered such stubborn resistance. And so, stupid Darkthorn, he's like, I'll make you suffer, and he teleports away, and he's gone. The end. This is the one part of this whole collection that fucking sucks, is the resolution to the story. It's just as fucking anticlimactic and stupid as this one, where they just punch him around and he just like gets mad and cries and disappears. He just teleports away. I'll be back, haha. He does the same thing. I doubt they could get Liefeld to draw an expanded ending with more significant pages. So after all the buildup where he's kind of scary, he's just like, I'll come back and get you later. He's gone. And they're like, gone for now, perhaps. And so then Sapphire uses this moment, now that bad guy's gone, to wipe the control away from Badrock, and he falls on his ass, and he's like, oh my God, that sucked. And so they all kind of stand there, and they're like, yeah, Prophet says, you all have my thanks. A great thing has occurred here today. We fought back annihilation. They're like, all in a day's work. You may want to come back to Washington with us. It might be the safest place for you right now. And Prophet says, you have earned my respect, Bowman. Where you lead, I will follow. He says, all right, then, let's clean up and clear out. We got another transport coming. We got a bunch of people that are hurt. So Shaft says, some guys, Just don't get it, Die Hard. The mission fulfilled a promise I made, not to the public, not to the government, but to myself. We just saved the world. The best part, there were no cameras documenting the moment, and I'm okay with that. So they're kind of reinforcing the idea that Shaft doesn't want to be part of the public life. They did good, they saved the world, and that's what they're there for. Everything's happy, and yay, and it's over. So, all that to be said, I have been fascinated with this book. It's so well done. It's the best version of Youngblood that it could be, with the exception of this end story. The resolution of everything. It's like they ran out of time and space and they just rushed it to get it over. I wish Liefeld would have put a little bit more heart and soul into this. I wish they would have let it extend out and have a little bit bigger kind of resolution to the villainous guy and how he's defeated. It could have been better, but I feel like Joe Casey, he did the best he could with what he had. Much respect. And so then there's a reprint of some of Liefeld's old stuff. I haven't read this fucking thing because I don't care what he's got to say. It's just like, he loves comics and he's had these characters forever. And so there's a reprint of like an old original story that he's done. This is old Liefeld art. And you can see the skills that he has. I think he's trying to emulate a John Byrne kind of thing, that's the way to go. But you can see how long he's had these characters. He's had them since like 1987 or before. And a lot of the team members are there as they kind of existed before. So it's kind of interesting. But, and then there's a reprint of some of the covers. That's from Youngblood 0. And then you get both covers there. Again, I think the recoloring on these things is absolutely fantastic. There's issue 2 and 3. Looks great. Issue 4. And then some kind of promo image. You got that fucking little asshole troll. Somebody kill him. And then this is like the original colored art by Joe Chiodo for Youngblood 0. But this looks like a reproduction of the actual physical, like they color with markers on these things and then scan them in and use a computer to make them sharp and crisp. And this looks like a reproduction of the actual physical colored like stuff. It doesn't have it looks not the same as the original artwork. And then, of course, it's recolored to look awesome right there. Some other cover from something else, some trading card, black and white artwork, some of the rough sketch pages, the pencils that Liefeld does. That's kind of interesting. I wish there was more of that stuff. They're kind of interesting in the end. So, I am so glad that I got this. It makes me like Youngblood. It makes me kind of like, I start thinking of ideas like, if I could do Youngblood, you just kind of trail off from this story. It also made me think like, God, they should remaster all the Youngblood issues that Liefeld drew. But these are issues 1 through 5. Issues 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you know, the other ones that Liefeld did, they're a little bit more cohesive, and there's not the chaotic insanity of like, no thought put into story structure the way the original issues are. The other ones that he did, there's not much reshuffling of pages you could do, and there's only new dialogue you could add. But I started thinking, like, I want to see adventures of these fuckers to continue. This is like, I've said before, I think the best version of Youngblood was the Alan Moore, like the 2 issues that he did. That was my favorite version of Youngblood. I take it back. Joe Casey has made the best version of Youngblood, and one that I like. I enjoyed this book so much. Like I've said, it's like everything that Youngblood should have been, you get to see. It's right here. And if you like these characters, I can't recommend it enough. Pick this up. It's not perfect for all the reasons I kept saying. He's constrained within the limits of what exists in terms of art. There's nothing more you can add to it. But in terms of just rescripting it, I don't think anybody could have done any better. So I wish I could go tell Joe Casey, like, badass, man. Amazing work. I'd love to hear him, like, how hard was it to kind of reshuffle this and put it together? One of my buddies also said, after I kind of told him how awesome this was, he kind of suggested, I wish they could do that with Wildcats and Cyberforce too, like just remaster those things. And part of me, like, instantly, I'm like, oh, that'd be an interesting idea. But again, I think those stories were just boring, but they weren't structurally, narratively, a fucking clusterfucked mess the way Liefeld's was. Cyberforce miniseries, Wildcats miniseries, I don't think changing the dialogue would make much of a difference. It kind of only works here, I think. But I want to read more on these characters, the way that their characterizations were set up. I want to see Joe Casey continue. I want to see Chapel descend into madness and blow his brains out in front of Spawn. I want to see diehard fucking Vogue. I want to see Riptide become a Playboy centerfold. I want to see more about Badrock because he actually comes across as a kid in these books. I've talked about that before. Badrock never seemed like a child. He seemed just like a punk young adult. And all the characterization was built into it. I'm just kind of going on here. As you can tell, I'm kind of glad to once be able to say there's something that Rob Liefeld created, even though the things that make it awesome are someone else. But this is something of his that I enjoyed profoundly. Art and everything, the concept, Liefeld's concepts, his ideas, his theories. There's so much cool shit that can be done. But is he the one to bring it to fruition as the best version possible? No. And once again, I submit this fucking book as evidence that he cannot construct anything awesome. It's just guys jumping through the air punching. He's gotten lazy. He's gotten slow. It's just ridiculous. I'm not going to go into it. I should just stop. The original miniseries, we all love it for nostalgia reasons, but it's a mess. This is fantastic. The best Youngbloods ever been, and the version of them that they always should have been. If this would have come out like this back in the 90s, I think we would all look back on it so differently. It's fantastic. So I don't know. I guess I should just shut up. I've just been going on and on. I love it. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It's an hour and 40 minutes. I thought about cutting it in half, and I tried to go fast, get through this thing. But if you've made it to the end, thank you. Thank you for listening, and let me know what you think, and go pick this shit up. It's very much worth it. So that's all I've got for now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.